I had a preacher friend of mine. He was a holiness preacher, very good guy. He married a woman who had lost two of her husbands. The first man died. The second husband died. Nice lady. So they married. He told me something very strange. People didn't know this. He said the first week they married, he saw himself fighting with this huge snake in his garden. They were fighting. But he said he didn't overcome the snake and the snake didn't overcome him, but they fought. Few years after, I heard that he was having issues with women sleeping around. And I tried to engage him, and I realized that because they couldn't kill him, they have to investigate the bloodline and find something in the bloodline that they can activate to use it to destroy the marriage. Cut a long story short, after some few years, the marriage didn't work, and the lady became single again. What was the problem here? She's not meant to marry. She's designed by a programming from her bloodline not to marry. So whoever marries that woman, you have to be very anointed and strong in the spirit to be able to override that snake. If you are not strong and anointed and you marry her, that snake will do you in. He will. I had another friend. He said, Nick, pray with me. Anytime I have a business idea to do something and I tell my wife, as soon as I tell my wife, the whole thing fails. So I said, stop telling her. He said, but that is not honesty. I said, my friend, be wise. Be wise. And so he stopped telling her things, and things were moving. Why? Because there was something working against her to make sure that her husband becomes a failure. When you go to America, you find so many African American men in prison, in jail. And if you look at it carefully, you realize that there are some women, if you marry them, you will either fail or you go to prison or you die prematurely. I'm just telling you. You can look at me any way I'm a spiritual man. I've seen things and I know things. I'm telling you. And there are some men too, when you marry them, if you are not prayerful, some things will happen to you that you will ask yourself, what happened? But it's because something is following them to make sure they fail. I've seen situations. I was dealing with a friend of mine in California, and we were praying for him in Ghana here. And I called him. I said, has anybody in your bloodline killed somebody before? He said, I can't talk on the phone. When are you coming to California? And I said, I'll let you know. So I flew to California. He picked me up. We went for a drive. He said, my grandfather killed somebody in the plantation. He shot him and killed him. But he was very, very wealthy, so they didn't touch him. They let him go. And he said, it bothers me a lot. And he said, but why did you ask? I said, that blood is still crying for vengeance. Then I said, you need to do something about the cry of that blood, because he's demanding vengeance.
I have never seen someone try to force their argument on people. You know, whenever you are telling a story that people are not buying it, you can always feel it, right? You can always have this sense that people are not buying what you're saying. And the pastors do too. Whenever they stretch a story a little bit too far, they can kind of get the feeling that people are not really in the mood. You see what happened in that video, right? Duncan Williams was telling his stories, and he kind of realized that people were not buying it. So he had to force it on them by saying, I don't care how you look at me. I don't care whether you believe or not. I don't care what you think. I am just telling you what I think is the truth, because I'm a spiritual man. he now tries to justify whatever he's saying with spirituality. So as a spiritual man whom he claimed to be, means that he tells no lies. As a spiritual man whom he claimed to be, means that he sees the spiritual things about people. He knows everything, and therefore you ought to believe all what he said without questioning, without any doubt. Just believe it. You know, it's funny to see them say these things, right? And let me be clear. I have seen videos of Duncan Williams that I like. The things he said, I really appreciate them. But for you to just push all your negative actions to the devil or Satan, that is so lazy. That is just so lazy. You do horrible things. You do inappropriate things. You acted very poorly. And then you turn around and said, all those things I did were being done by the devil, or the devil pushes me into doing them. There was another entity involved. Those things were not totally my own actions. Isn't that so convenient? Isn't that so convenient? You went sleeping around. You slept with anybody you met. And when they ask you, like, what's going on? Why are you doing all this? You are saying that it is the devil's work. When are you ever going to be responsible for your own actions? When are you ever going to be a grown-up and said, this thing I did all by myself, and it was a mistake, I'm sorry, and I'm accountable for all of them? When are you ever going to do that? Rather than just pushing the blame to an imaginary entity, why don't you just take responsibility for your own actions? And this is the reason why I have always had issues with the things Michael Okpo has been saying. He is one of those preachers who uses devil to capture the attention of his members. To him, everything is about the devil. Everything is about someone not wanting you to succeed. Everything is about people just wanting you to fail. Even if you have no idea about what you were getting yourself into. You know, you could just wake up one day and decided to do a business that you had no idea about how to go about it. And when you fail, Michael Okpo will tell you it is the work of the enemy. That the only reason you fail was because the enemy is working against you. He will not bother to ask if that person who was doing that business had any idea about how to run such a business. He will not ask that. He will say, if you fail, it means your enemies don't want you to succeed. And you have to fast and pray harder, more seriously. You must be steadfast in the Lord. Rather than going to a school or meeting someone who knows about the business well to teach you, to educate you about the in and out of the business, you will go and meet Michael Okpo, who is going to tell you to fast and pray and ask for God to deliver you from the shackles of the enemies. You see what they've done to your brain. You see what they've done to your brain. You know, I watched this video where a man of God was shouting, receive, receive, receive. And I'm like, we've been receiving for years, right? And if all this receive, receive, receive were for real, wouldn't us be a lot more better? I mean, financially, than we are now? Africa is the poorest continent in the whole world. Many people are so broke that they have nothing to go by with. They are totally broke. There aren't many good jobs. The roads are a death trap. The lighting conditions are horrible. Living standard is in the toilet. People cannot boast of good jobs anymore. And with all this, all we do is shout, receive, receive, receive. As if that would change a thing. As if that would change a thing. So, whenever I meet a man of God saying stuff like Duncan Williams here, I ask myself, why? What is the motive of that person saying what they are saying? And if you look deeper, you will realize that there is something he's trying to push. And what he is saying, he is just setting the mood in order to bring up the thing that he wants to push. There is always something behind the scenes. All you need to do is to look beneath the surface, and you will find it. Honestly, you will find it. I hope that people start shining their eyes. People start waking up, and people start realizing that the actions you take, the things you do, are all on you. No one, not anywhere, can be responsible for your own actions. If you do something, if you take an action, you are responsible for it. I just want all of us to be clear about this.